Hello, kidney warriors. James here from Dadvice TV, your online kidney health coach. And as some of you have noticed, we are now live streaming not just on YouTube, but also on Facebook. All right, woohoo! I am so glad to have that working, and so is Jen, because now it's easier for a lot of people who follow her Facebook group, Plant Powered Kidneys, to find us and comment, because not everyone has a YouTube account. All right, it is Tuesday. It is 6 p.m. Eastern time. It is live, and we are here, myself and Jen. Let me bring her up there on the screen. Hey, Jen, how you doing?
I'm doing well, James. We were just saying it's pretty warm, so I have this lovely humid hair today. So, but you know, it's a good day. Still a good day.
Oh, yes. A lovely day here in Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio. It is currently, 91 degrees at 6 p.m. at night.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, I used to live in Southern California, and it was never this kind of heat. It's very humid. But anyway, guys, for those of you that are brand new, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Want to know, you'll get a notification whenever I post something new. But my name is James. I am a kidney patient, diagnosed stage 5 kidney failure. Not good at all. Told I had no chance. Actually said 0 chance of improving after the doctors got me up to GFR 13 while I spent a week in the ICU. They told me I needed to go on dialysis and get on that list for a transplant. Well, that was almost, we're coming up to the 2-year mark. Almost 2 years ago, I never went on dialysis. Instead, I discovered the secret, at least for me, at improving my overall health and helping remove the burden from my kidneys. And you guys know what that secret is? Tell me in the chat. Let's just test this chat. We're going to test it on Facebook. We're going to test it on YouTube. What was the one secret thing that when I finally realized, do this, it changed my life? And I went from thinking about kidney failure to thinking about kidney health. Take your guess in there. Now there's a little bit of a delay. All right, we're seeing some guesses start to come in. We got diet. You're on the right track, Abby. But I didn't know what to eat. All my doctor said, I see portion control. I love that. Portion control is part of it. But how did I know what portion? How did I know what to eat? How did I know what exercise to get? I'm seeing lots of great answers here. The secret to living a great life with kidney health. There we go. Well, let me pop some of these up on the screen. Nutrition. And where did I learn about the nutrition from? A renal dietitian. Yeah. All my doctor told me, which is what most doctors tell you, is drink more water, eat less salt, watch your potassium, watch your phosphorus. What you do what? What do I want my phosphorus to do? How do I know if I need to eat more? What has phosphorus in it? To find out all those things, answer all those questions, and make it so easy to where I wasn't afraid to eat food was a renal dietitian. So that's a brief introduction. I know I get really wordy here of who I am. And right here with us every Tuesday night, we have Jen, who is a renal dietitian. She's one of the real heroes of helping you find kidney health. Jen, go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself in case they're brand new to here and they don't know who you are.
Thanks, James. So yeah, my name is Jen and I am a renal dietitian. I have been helping people in all different stages of kidney disease for almost the entire amount of my dietetic career. I started working in dialysis when I, like you, but on the other side of it, was really scared of the renal diet. I didn't know how I could really teach people all these different concepts and thinking about all these different venues and avenues that we need to talk about when it comes to the renal diet. So I took it upon myself to learn and practice it and teach more people in dialysis. And that is where I started to realize, you know what, it doesn't have to be this way. People can make nutrition changes before they end up on dialysis to prevent going to dialysis. And that is why I started my virtual private practice. I see clients just like this in a face-to-face setting. and we talk all about your nutrition, your health needs, and what will make the most sense for your kidney health. So I do work privately one-on-one with clients that are in the United States. For people that are outside of the United States or even in the United States as well, I do also have a group course, and that is a Plant-Powered Kidneys course, which we are in the middle of week 3 right now. We are getting through this course, chugging away here. But I will be reopening the course later this year. So if you're interested in joining, you can look more information up about that on my website. In the meantime, I do have a free Facebook group for people that are interested in learning more about how to eat plant-based for kidney health. And that is our Facebook group, Plant-Powered Kidneys. It's free to join, so you can go there, be a part of the group. I do live chats just like this on Facebook as well each week, almost every week, to give cooking demos, tips, ideas, and recommendations of how you can eat more plants for your kidney-friendly diet.
Very good. And if you guys have not joined her Facebook group, Plant Powered Kidneys, go and join. When you're a kidney warrior, the more information we can get, actually, the more accurate and helpful information we can get, the better our life is. And out there on the internet, there's so much information that's just too general, it's misleading, it's misinterpreting something. And you're going to learn all sorts of stuff from her free Facebook page. And my favorite thing is watching how to cook, because I can't cook word diddly. I have to learn by watching people. You know, I make one dish. Everyone here knows it. I make stir fry. It's kind of hard to mess it up. I've done it a few times. But I am starting to expand a little bit more as I watch more and more of these. Hey, look at this. Tammy says she joined your Facebook group. Woohoo! Awesome there.
That's great.
Now, today, we're going to talk about fluid retention. And we actually had someone, Rosalind, out here ask a question which is directly related to fluid retention. She's talking about her feet swelling up and how can she prevent that? Or stop the swelling. We are definitely going to be talking about that. Now, a couple quick pieces of housekeeping real quick. Normally, I can chat back and send comments while people are chatting. But since we're getting a feed both from Facebook and YouTube, I can't chat back to you guys. So I can't say things like, oh, great question, we'll get to it in a few moments. Just know I see all your questions that come by, and we're going to try to fit as many of them, if not all of them, into the conversation wherever they fit best. We can't answer, Jen and I, we can't answer questions that are real specific. So if you said, hey, my creatinine is 2.52 and my potassium is 4.67, what should I do? The best person to answer those types of questions, which are very specific to you, would be your doctor or your renal dietitian that has access to your medical history, your labs, and they kind of know what strategy is being used and other things that are happening in your life. We can't just randomly kind of give out some, oh, do this, because there is no one solution for everyone. That's where, though, that renal dietitian, when you work with them, is just a lifesaver. They help make things so much easier. So let's start talking about fluid retention. Now, when I was first diagnosed and I went to the ICU, I was suffering from fluid retention, extreme fluid. And I had every symptom you guys can imagine, even the bad, awful ones. I had all those. I went to the ER. I did wear my shoes when I went to the ER. I remember they were so hard to get on because my feet and my ankles had disappeared. It was just leg going straight down to foot. It was difficult to get my shoes on. I remember they were completely untied, and I stretched out the shoestrings to fit my feet in there. When I left the ER, I could not put my shoes on. I just put some socks on and I walked out that way to the car. It wasn't raining or anything, so I was fine. But it was fluid retention. It was your kidneys. One of the things they do is they balance the fluid in your blood, which also has an impact on your blood pressure. And mine were functioning so bad they couldn't manage the fluid. And I'm sitting at home, no clue what to do. I didn't know my kidneys were shot. And I'm drinking Gatorade. The only thing I could get to stay down was Gatorade, pretty much salt water. It's got all that sodium and stuff in there. So when I went to the ER, my electrolytes, they said, oh, your electrolytes are doing great. You got plenty of that, but we got to get your sodium and everything else, all these other things back in balance. And my doctors put me on a fluid restriction. And we're going to talk about that. I don't want to give away all of it right away. But Jen, when do kidney patients typically get placed on a fluid restriction by their doctor?
Well, it's really going to be an individualized situation. So some people have a fluid restriction when they are even stage 4, sometimes stage 5, almost all the time on dialysis. But there are some cases where people aren't on fluid restrictions, even on dialysis. It is just so individualized. But the doctor will keep an eye on a few things. And I talk with my clients a lot about this when we discuss tracking and measuring. So with your fluid balance, the doctor's looking at your weight, looking at your blood pressure, and looking at your sodium levels in your lab. These are 3 vitals that the doctor is using to assess what your fluid balance is. And if those become too high, too low, out of range, or you are symptomatic, so James, like you were saying, have that swelling in your feet, if you have difficulty breathing, these are all signs that your fluid balance might be a little out of whack and that you need to pull back on some. And this is because the kidneys are unable to get rid of that extra fluid because we go to the bathroom, we urinate, and that's how our body gets rid of the majority of our extra fluid. So if the doctor's seeing a trend that your kidneys aren't able to keep up with that, they'll say, hey, we need to pull back a little bit on your fluids so that you're not accumulating this extra fluid, which sits in your body, raises your blood pressure, drops your sodium level, and causes a lot of pain and discomfort. We want to prevent all of these things because that's what's going to really help keep your kidneys happy and healthier by preventing those complications.
Yeah, and when I had my swelling ankles and feet, I also had the fingers, my hands were just so big from that. Now, a common thing that I see, and I'm going to kind of play like I don't know. And I want to ask you some questions. Because this is one of the things that, there's a few things that just break my heart when I see them online, but I see this all the time on a Facebook group. Who should tell me that I need a fluid restriction?
Well, not your friend, not your neighbor, not your mom, not your brother, not your cat.
What about Facebook? Random people on Facebook, not them?
No, everybody is different. Even if you talk with somebody who seems to be the same situation, let's say you both are stage 5, it was both caused by high blood pressure, that doesn't mean that what's working or going on for them is the same thing for you. So the person or persons that are going to be telling you about your fluid restriction, number 1, your doctor, and number 2, your dietitian. So we both work together to coordinate our conversations and making sure that we're on the right path. And you are the star of the show. You are the main event here that we all are focusing on taking care of. So in my role, I look at those vitals just like the doctors do and really talk about monitoring those. I talk with my clients about doing blood pressure checks, doing weight checks, again, to reassess their fluid balance. But really, it's going to come from your healthcare professionals, even asking. So again, just like James said in the very beginning, you can't email us and say, hey, how much fluid should I be drinking because I'm stage 4 and my BUN is 53, and it doesn't work like that. That is taking a little fragment of what's going on in your life and trying to say this is the solution, and it's not safe or healthy and probably not very effective at all. So you've got to talk with your healthcare team to know exactly what you need to be looking at. And it can be anything from as low as 30-ish ounces a day to infinite or encouraging to drink more. There's a huge range there. So it's really important that you get the answer from your healthcare team about what you should be focusing on.
Yep. Awesome. I see so many people on Facebook. They're brand new, diagnosed, and they ask, the doctor said, drink more water. How much should I drink? And there are all sorts of answers. And I think there's not enough data here to even guess. And the answer has to come from their doctor or their renal diet. Their healthcare team is the one who will give them the right number. Now, if you're a healthy person, you're a 19-year-old teenager, average temperature, stuff like that, living out in the desert stuff, the standard formula is half an ounce for every pound of body weight. And that's just a general. So if you weighed 200 pounds, you would drink about 100 ounces a day. But if you're athletic, if you're in a hot area, if there's so many other things, you've got high blood pressure, all of those things, a doctor or a renal dietitian will make adjustments. And the people on Facebook, we love to support each other. We love to help each other. But if we're giving out a number, like you need to drink, and these are ones I really hate. You need to drink 12 glasses of water a day. How big is a glass? I don't know. I've got all sorts of sizes of glasses at home.
I mean,
52 ounces is the thing I carry around with me all the time.
Very subjective.
I'll be living in the bathroom if I drink 8 of these a day, and my kidneys would not be happy with me. So make sure we always, if we get any limitations, they come from our healthcare team, fluid being one of those. Now, if someone, whether you're on a fluid restriction or your doctor says, hey, I want you to drink at least 100 ounces a day, what are things that a person can do to help keep track of that, to know how much I'm drinking?
Yeah, well, I mean, just like you pointed out, you have your water bottle that's measured in ounces. So I think that's a great way to be tracking how much you're drinking. Something I recommend for a lot of my clients is setting up like a fluid calendar or a fluid schedule and saying, okay, by 9 o'clock, I want to be at this amount. By 11 o'clock, I want to be at this amount, so that you're pacing yourself through the day. You also don't want to go through these periods of, oh my gosh, it's 9 o'clock. I've got to drink this whole glass of water and then just down the whole thing. Yeah. No, this is that phrase. It's a marathon, not a sprint. That totally encompasses this idea that it's really about casually sipping throughout the day to get your fluids, and not doing these huge tons of fluids and then nothing and then more and then nothing. That's a lot for the body to take on all at once. And if you already are having kidney problems, that's just something to kind of be cautious with.
Yep. Sip water all day long. And it was hard for me to make the shift from grabbing a 2-liter of Dr. Pepper. And I'm being honest, people, when I sat down for dinner, whatever takeout I ordered, because I never cooked before, I opened up that McDonald's bag. I always ran by the gas station and got a cold thing of Dr. Pepper, a 2-liter, and I just drank that with my meal. It was hard for me to give up that. I would have told you before I was diagnosed that it was impossible to give up Dr. Pepper. I just had to have it. It was my only fluid that I got in. And then the ice, when the ice melted, if I went and had ice in there, that was the only water I got. But when I realized just how bad soda was and how important it was to get fluid in me, good fluid like water, I made that switch, and I add flavoring to mine. So I know how much this is. There used to be lines on it, but I've been using the same thing probably like 5 or 6 months. It's a Camel brand. I picked it up at like Walmart or Target. I love it because the lid is magnetic and it's easy to open it up and clean the whole thing because it's big. It's not tiny. It doesn't have a straw that's hard to clean. But I just fill this up with water in the morning. When I get up, I take my medications that I need to in the morning, drink some water with each pill. So that's one thing I do to help me get mine. I don't put a whole bunch of pills in my hand, just gob them and drink. I put that pill, put it in, take a sip. Do another pill, take a sip. It's easy. Gets me a few ounces in the morning. I'll top it off, add some lemon or some raspberries or maybe some cucumber slices or something in here, and I stick it in the freezer. Then I go take my shower, get dressed, get ready for the day. By the time I'm done with that, it's already cooled down to where it's a good, decent temperature. It's not ice cold. And I just drink that and I refill it throughout the day. I do at least, I don't want to tell you guys how much I weigh. I do about 3 of these a day. I've just gotten used to it just by sipping, and it's so easy. Now, if I don't like water, Jen, what are some other things that may count towards my fluid intake? Or even if I'm on a restriction, I have to watch it. What are some other things that count that I may have to consider against that fluid intake?
So it's especially important when we talk about fluid restrictions to think about every single thing that could count towards that restriction. When we're thinking about drinking more water, it's, literally like icing on the cake. It's just, okay, it's a little bit more. But when we think about anything that counts towards a fluid restriction, you want to think of anything that would melt. Anything that you put out in the parking lot, that you put out on the driveway, and it turns into a puddle, that is going to be part of the fluid restriction. So obviously ice, anything frozen like that would melt, but this also means Jell-O, yogurt, pudding. Think of the things that are really watery and liquidy, and those are still going to count as some fluid. It's not going to be an equal 8 ounce for 8 ounce exchange, but it does have a lot of fluid in it, and that is going to contribute to some of the fluid that you're putting into your body. So I'm trying to think of some other like frozen things.
Yeah, we have a few people saying like fruit pops.
Yeah, anything liquid, anything that comes from a liquid base or uses a lot of liquid base to it. I know people, clients that I had in dialysis would oftentimes forget about Jell-O. That was something easily forgotten because it's more solid. But if you think about how you make Jell-O, it's hot water that you're mixing into a packet, and then it just changes the structure of the water. So it's a lot of fluid.
Yep. And watermelon this time of year, a lot of people, and I did a video last summer about it. I love watermelon. I grew up on watermelon during the summer. I had no problems with fiber whatsoever. My mom would get the biggest watermelons, lots of them. We'd slice them all up and we just plow through those things like it was nothing. But there is a lot of fluid in the watermelon. You got to take that into consideration if you're on a restriction. If you're not on a restriction, hey, that's just some extra fluid that you're getting in. Just don't make the mistake and do what I used to do. We got a few watermelons out here. Boom, boom, boom. Got an Abby over there also said watermelon. I used to cover my watermelon in salt. Let me tell you something. That's so good. Oh my goodness. I haven't done that in years. But boy, and as kidney patients, especially if you are on a fluid restriction, if you're a stage 4 or 5 and you've got to be careful with your fluids, your doctor told you, not because Facebook told you, you got to think about that. I can't have those gigantic slices of watermelon without taking into account that fluid that's in there. There's also potassium. It's a natural form of potassium, but that's also there in the watermelon. I think we had a couple. Yeah, someone mentioned soups, Rosalind.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Mentioned soup. That's a lot of fluid right there, especially the way I make soup. I see some people are laughing at my Dr. Pepper. Oh, yeah. Oh, I think Dr. Pepper's stock probably took a hit when I got diagnosed with kidney disease. Now, here's a question. It's on a similar topic for what we are. And I saw a few people posted in here. And I've seen this occasionally online, and I've always just ignored it because the doctor has never, ever said this to me. But some people have asked, should the fluid or the water be room temperature? Is cold water worse for you?
No. I've not heard anything specifically about temperature making much difference. Besides, some people I know I've heard people say drinking hot water like tea will help slow down how much fluid they're drinking because you can't drink a lot of a hot beverage. So if you do have some of your drinks hot, then that might be something that slows you down a little bit. If you're drinking, let's say it's really hot outside and you are trying to cool down, if you're drinking cold water, you might drink more of it because it's refreshing and it's helping to cool you off. But what I would recommend instead of drinking the water first is to take the water and put it like on the side of your neck or use a cold towel. Put some water on a towel and put that on your head, put it on your shoulders.
I just bought 6 of these. those cooling
yeah,
towels. It's just a thin little towel. You get it wet. These ones haven't been opened yet. I got to start walking more. I got to get more exercise. And with this 90+ degree weather, I'm like, it makes a world of difference to put that on you. And then when I do walk, I do take my water bottle with me. And I do notice I don't drink as much. If I drink too much, I get tired of walking. I just don't want to walk anymore. Oh, we're having a little bit of a connection issue with Jen. Boom. Hold on. She'll reconnect in a second. While we're waiting for her to reconnect. She's in Hawaii, remember. She's on an island. Her internet takes a while to get here. And let's see if we got her back. Hold on, let me try reconnecting with her real quick, and we'll keep going there. But putting a towel on, or putting some water on you is a great way to help cool down a little bit so you don't drink as much. And Jen has a great list of items to help us stay cool during the summer. Okay, hold on, we're calling her back. Let's see if we can get her reconnected. It is live. Someone mentioned the potassium in the watermelon. You do have to be careful, especially, so it's all going to depend on how much potassium you are allowed in the day. When I got out of the hospital, it was the end of November. I wasn't thinking about watermelon. It probably wasn't even in the store. If it was so outrageously expensive because it was out of season. But when summer got here, I was like, oh my goodness, I got to get me some watermelon. I'm a Southern boy. I need that watermelon. And that's when I discovered, I can't eat the amounts that I used to eat. I had to stick with smaller portions of it. All right, we got Jen back. I was just talking about watermelon here. So I was telling everyone about the towels, kind of like what you mentioned. Yeah. I bought a whole bunch of these for me and the whole family so we can start walking more, because walking is great exercise and I don't want to get dehydrated. Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned hot tea. So coffee also counts as a fluid because it is a fluid, even though it's hot. And it doesn't really matter what kind of tea it is or fluid. If it's green tea, Earl Grey tea, you're a Star Trek fan, you drink Earl Grey, all of that counts towards your fluid. Now, before we get into like some tips to help us stay cooler and handle a fluid restriction in the summer in this hot weather, are there any types of water that may be better than other, like coconut water? I see that question and we even got it up here. Ray over in the UK asks, is coconut water good for hydration? I've even had people ask, is any kind better than the other? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I'm a sucker for just good old-fashioned water. I personally have no issues with drinking it just as is, but I know some people have some issues with the flavor or a lack of flavor, especially if you're cutting away from something like soda. So you can try some things. We've talked about True Lemon before, using some citrus or other flavorings to add to that. I would be cautious for one, coconut water. Coconut water is, think of it almost kind of like a natural Gatorade, really. Mm-hmm. Because it is super high in potassium. And when I say high, I mean like I've seen them upwards of 900 milligrams for a cup of coconut water.
That could be a third or more of your daily limit. Ooh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I had a patient on dialysis who was drinking coconut water, and his potassium shot way up because he was drinking coconut water. So just be mindful that coconut water has a lot of potassium in it. So you want to be careful with knowing how much potassium you need. And we've talked about it before. Everybody's potassium need is different. So some people could do coconut water and be totally fine with it. If anything, it might help them for their potassium. I had another patient who was on peritoneal dialysis, PD, and she had cases of coconut water because she needed more potassium in her diet.
Okay, good.
So I think Yeah, so it's so different. Both of these people were on dialysis, but they had different needs. So the I know other people ask about like the alkaline waters
Hmm.
and the specialty kind of waters. I don't feel it. I don't think that there's too many. It's hard to say if there's really a lot of benefits to those. Um, I do like to focus on a more alkaline diet, but we talk about fruits and vegetables in that case. Drinking
Hmm.
alkaline water, I don't know how much it's been studied to see if there really is any kind of difference when it comes to only doing something like that if you weren't making any changes to your diet, especially. Uh, and then also, I think about the cost. It's that if you drink something like that, that could be quite more expensive compared to just standard water. Are you really getting results
Yeah.
out of that cost difference?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, as a kidney warrior, the cost of just our medication, our blood pressure medication, and other things, it adds up.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I'd rather spend the money on gadgets. I love gadgets than some water that really may not be any better. It definitely isn't remarkably better than what
Mm-hmm.
I get through the filter system here at home. I love regular water. Now, a few people have asked, what are some other things we can drink? So there are other things out there. You just got to be careful what's in them. If you want to go with juices, it could be a lot of sugar in those. Cranberry juice, I saw that mentioned in the comments. I actually asked my doctor about cranberry juice when I was first diagnosed because I had this weird misconception that cranberries were good for the kidneys, that they just turbocharged them and made them work better. And apparently there's some beliefs that cranberries can help with UTI, but there's very little data to support that out there. And my doctor told me, he goes, if you want cranberries, if you think you want some cranberries, do not drink cranberry juice. Eat some cranberries. That's what he
Mm-hmm.
told me. He
Mm-hmm.
says, it's not going to do anything for your kidneys. It's not going to help you. It's not going to boost anything. You don't need cranberries. But if you would like some cranberries, eat some cranberries. Avoid
Yeah.
the juices. And he said, if I ever did want some juice for something, and I it was one of those rare cases where I needed more potassium because of my heart.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to the ER, the very first thing they did was 2 big bags of potassium in an IV. This arm filled me up to get my potassium up. It was dangerously low. But he, I kind of forgot where I was going, darn it. I needed potassium. He had to eat potatoes. I can't remember what I was going to say there.
So
Darn
about the
it.
cranberries and just saying that, there may or may not be
Oh,
things specifically
he said,
that
if
could
I wanted juice, make it. Or
yeah.
go to like those stores where you have the oranges. Because he wanted me to drink a little bit of orange juice. Make the orange juice there. Do not buy it in a cart because of how that's made and reconstituted. Even if it's not from concentrate, it's still got chemicals and stuff in there and extra sugar. And he's like, get it as natural as you can. I'd prefer you grab an orange and just
Mm-hmm.
eat the orange.
Mm-hmm.
And you've talked about that. A lot of times it's better just grab the fruit, get the fiber, get the skin, get that stuff. And I love eating. And I was a big, big boy. And it helped me. I couldn't drink all my meals. All right. Someone says, apple juice, is it good? Rosalind's asking.
I mean, well, Rosalind, do you like apple juice? Do you want to include it? I think that's the number one thing. I'm not going to say that it's good as in going to solve anything, fix anything, cure
Yep.
anything. But if you enjoy it, if it's something that you want to include, then absolutely that's something that you can include. I will say that I have seen apple juices have very high potassium contents. And if you think about the logic of how many pieces of fruit it takes to make an actual full glass of juice, all that potassium is going in. So it can add up pretty quickly. And there's some outdated renal nutrition information I've seen that they say potassium, or they say that apple juice is a low potassium food, but typically it's actually more high potassium. So again, just keep that in mind. Be aware of what you need to be following for yourself, for your numbers. And if it's something that you enjoy, then You can even just add like a splash of juice to your water to add flavor to it. Whatever sounds good to you. Personally, I would love to, chop up an apple and grab a cinnamon stick and put it in a pitcher of water to
Ooh,
have apple
yes.
cinnamon water instead of the apple juice.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, there's a few other people asking about a few other kinds of juices. There is no magic juice, no super juice, no wonder juice. If you want that kind of juice and it fits within your diet, you've got the allowances with your potassium, phosphorus, sugar, and other things in your fluid, go ahead and enjoy some. Just control the portion. Don't go too crazy with it right there. Now, with the weather getting so hot, what are some things that we can do if we don't want to go crazy? Let's assume we all have a fluid restriction. We don't, and remember, we only go on a fluid restriction if our doctor tells us to. But let's assume we have a fluid restriction. How are some ways that we can quench our thirst without just guzzling tons of fluid and all of a sudden using up our daily allotment in the first, 2 hours of the day?
Well, one of my favorite recommendations is to find ways to help your thirst, whatever's causing that thirst to happen. Find an alternative that doesn't include a liquid. So for example, if you are hot because it is getting warm outside, so if it's a temperature warm that is drying you out and you feel overheated, like James had just mentioned, using something like a chill towel can be really helpful to cool you down and help drop your temperature. Even taking a bottle of water, and again, before you start drinking it, put it on the side of your neck. You have a pulse point right here on the side of your neck. And if you put something cold next to that pulse point, that blood is going to cool down, and then that cooler blood is going to circulate through your body and help you cool down faster. So you can use something like that to cool your temperature down first before you start drinking any water. So that would be an example for a hot environment. Now, if you are thirsty because of maybe some medications are causing more thirst for you, try looking into some other ways to help with that dry mouth, dry throat feeling. Some people like using lozenges. There's a company called Biotin that sells dry mouth lozenges. You could do even like sore throat lozenges, the menthol kind. Whatever really feels soothing for your throat and for your mouth can be really, really helpful. You can also use a dry mouth mouthwash or rinse. You can use some lemon. I know I've had clients that just suck on a piece of lemon. And even like right now, if you think about that, just take a second and imagining yourself sucking on a lemon. And do you feel yourself salivating? Do you feel yourself automatically kind of starting to kind of drool a little bit? Because you can imagine how tangy and tart that is. This
is another thing I do. I wear a hat to try to get cool or stay in the shade as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from 10 to 2, if you can be out of the sun, out of that midday heat, that is really, really helpful. And if you can't get out of the outdoors in that time, finding shade, even if it's a hat, a tree, an umbrella, whatever that is, being out of direct heat can really help drop your temperature level.
Yeah. And what are some others? We had one, I know this is one of the ones you've mentioned before, frozen grapes.
Oh my gosh. Frozen fruit in general, I think is really awesome. I know some people were talking about the frozen fruit pops, but take it a step further and go for the whole fruit. Frozen grapes make an awesome treat, and it's like an ice cube, but it's less liquid because it's not pure water like an ice cube is. You can do frozen blueberries, frozen strawberries, frozen cherries, frozen pineapple, frozen mango, anything like that. And you can even use those like ice cubes in your drinks. So you can add frozen fruit to your water so that it cools it down and adds flavor to it without adding extra liquid. So I think using frozen fruit in your drinks is a really, really big one. Plus it looks really pretty. It looks nice and colorful, and it's just something kind of different and a special treat, especially if you're pulling away from something like soda.
Yeah, my daughter she loves frozen fruit. I keep it in the freezer just so that I can either snack on like some frozen cherries. I absolutely love them. I hate cherries, but you freeze them. Oh, they're incredible. Or I'll plop them in my water at the beginning of the day, and my daughter just loves to go in there and she picks out the colors. So she'll grab all the blueberries and the raspberries, the good parts, and she'll leave me the blackberries and other things that I don't care too much about. So one of the other things I like to do, and we kind of touched on it earlier, is I throughout the day put my water bottle in the freezer. So if I'm going to go out, and I have a couple of these, so I'll rotate them if I need to. If I'm going to go out this afternoon to, say, the lake or something with the kids, I will fill this up with water and I will almost freeze it. I don't freeze it all the way, but I get it pretty frozen. And just having this with me without drinking it, it helps cool me down. It helps me not not drink too much, 'cause I don't want to have to use a restroom or something like that, or guzzle 5 of these in a day. I don't want to overdo my water, but I find freezing it helps. And when I do drink it, it comes out a lot slower. And since it's cold, I actually drink it. Since it's really cold, I drink it a lot slower. It's kind of like hot water, like you mentioned earlier. I can't just guzzle ice cold water. So that's a great tip that I had picked up along the way that I like to do. What about if I'm on a water restriction and I need to cool down some fluid? I'm allowed to have a certain amount, and I fill my glass with it, or I'm kind of pacing myself throughout the day. Are those artificial reusable ice cubes, are those okay for us to use to put in there instead of a regular ice cube that's going to melt and add even more fluid?
Yeah, actually, I love those. I think they're so cute, and I have a harder time finding them out here in Hawaii, but luckily we have Amazon, so I can find them and order them on Amazon. And I have them in my Amazon shop link on my webpage, on my website. There are some really, really cute ones. There's some that are shaped like little pieces of fruit. It kind of reminds me of Trick cereal, where all the little pieces are different fruits. So it's just something really cute and fun. And the great thing about the reusable ice cubes is that it will keep your drink really cold and not dilute or melt into your drink itself. So it's exactly the case. It's reusable. So I would just make sure that you keep them clean, take care of them just like you would any other kind of kitchen equipment. So I think those are really, really awesome to use, and it helps cut down a lot on your fluid, because a lot of people don't realize how much ice can add up in a fluid restriction. About every cup of ice equals a half a cup of water. So if you're putting a cup of ice into your drink and then you put 16 ounces of water in there, that's actually 24 ounces that you're drinking if you're drinking it until the cup is completely empty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about how much water that is. It's kind of funny when you were talking about how they were cute. Oh, I had flashbacks of my wedding. We had reusable light up ice cubes.
Oh, yeah.
My wife just loved light up stuff, and we had so much of it. And I remember going online on Amazon and ordering them. Those ones, at least back then, this is over 10 years ago, they were not cheap at all.
Well, luckily the reusable ones now are a little more affordable. I've seen some big bags of them that are like $10. You can even find them sometimes in the dollar stores. So,
oh, wow, good.
Yeah. So you can find them in a lot of places and for different price points, but they're just really, really great. And you can also even try, if you don't want to use the reusable ones, some of like the specialty drink makers will have the ice cube molds that make big ice cubes, like the really big round ones or the really big block ice cubes. Anything that is a larger size of ice will melt a lot slower.
Yeah.
So, and that's why one of the other recommendations I have, like with your water bottle in the freezer, I've recommended to some people, fill it up like a third of the way or half of the way, and then leave it propped up in the freezer overnight so that it freezes entirely, and then fill that remaining half with water. That bottom part that's all completely solid frozen is going to take a long time to thaw out. So and it also expands a little bit, right? So it will
Yeah.
cut down a little bit more on your fluid.
I learned about that the hard way by filling a water bottle all the way, tightening it up and sticking it in the freezer, let the whole thing freeze.
Oh yeah.
And
Nope.
crack. You're like, what? How'd that crack? And it was the ice expanding. Let me see what else we have right here for some ideas to help us reduce the amount of water we need to drink to stay cool with this summer. One thing, you guys can't hear it right now. And it's actually, I love this microphone because you can't hear the noises all around me. I have a gigantic fan just right over there, just off camera, blowing right on me. If I had a tissue, you'd see it like flapping, like, wow. My legs, I keep my shorts on and they're like cold, so I don't have to drink as much. Just because our house does get, at least where I'm at, this part of it does get hot during the summer. But I love using a fan to reduce, especially when I had my fluid restriction. I used a fan. Whenever I was outside, I tried to stay, in a cool area, as you mentioned, staying in the shade, wearing a hat. And people said, hey, can I buy these hats? These ones are not for sale. I actually have a company that I use for all my shirts, like this one right here, and I pay to have all these things embroidered, and I wear these around Ohio. So when people see me, they're like, what is Dadvice TV? And I can tell them all about it and talk about kidneys. But I do have some shirts that I make that are on like Teespring and stuff like that, but they're just like the regular ones that I wear on the weekends to say like hope and stuff. But I like misters going outside, those water misters, keeping me cool when I'm out there. Those things are absolutely amazing. They work so well. And someone had asked, Rosalind had asked me, how did I reduce my swelling, my fluid retention? I was just on a restrictive diet and it took time. And it probably took me to get my shoes back on to where they fit, but they were still tight. And it took maybe a week. My kidneys just had to, I look at it as I had to stop pouring in too much water and give my kidneys time to catch up with me and get my levels down. I also had to watch my sodium. In the very beginning, my doctors whacked my sodium levels super low. First of all, my blood pressure was through the roof. They needed to get this fluid out of me, get it under control. And that was a high restriction in sodium. I was on a fluid restriction. They encouraged me to move, walk. It was very hard because I was extremely anemic, which meant I was just a constant fatigue and did not want to walk. But they said, no, keep walking. Even if you just get up and you walk. And they would say, if you're going to get up and go to the restroom, take the long way if you can. Walk to the kitchen, the other parts of the house, and then go to the restroom. Those little tiny steps, they add up. So, Rosalind, they had me do that, watch what I was eating, watch what I was drinking, and walking, and it just took time. And then every time I got new labs, which in the beginning was extremely often, they readjusted everything. How much sodium should I have? How much of this? And it's really, really important. In the beginning, I did not have a renal dietitian. So I was going with these very vague guidance from the doctors. And when they said, cut your sodium, I overcut it, which was torture to me because every single thing has sodium in it. And I'm sitting down like, okay, I'm going to eat an egg. I'm like, sodium in egg. I was like, what in the world? There's nothing for me to make. And my wife, bless her heart, made me some chili with, vegetarian chili with no sodium whatsoever. The worst tasting stuff ever. I took like a bite or two of it. That was it. We froze it. It became a brick, and eventually I threw it away. Once I worked with a renal dietitian, they're like, no, you're cutting your sodium too far. Here's what you need, a minimum, and here's a maximum. Don't go over that. Get at least this. And all of a sudden, I was like, wait, I can add some. I can have a little bit. Like, yeah, you can have a little bit. It's good. You need some. So just kind of answer that question about the, my fluid restriction. it took time. And working with the doctors was difficult because I didn't have the real guidance I needed. And renal dietitians are the ones that really helped me realize I can eat anything I want pretty much as long as I know how much and I don't go overboard. Are there any other tips for helping us reduce the thirst for more fluid in case we are on a fluid restriction that you can think of? And I'm going to look through the comments here and see what questions I kind of had scroll by so I can mention those or ask those.
Okay, so I do have one, and I think it's pretty relevant, especially to right now. And that has to do with your cooking. So if you are slaving over a hot stove, if you are cooking and turning on your oven, turning on your stove, you are heating up your house really fast. And I don't know about you, but when I am standing over that oven and trying to cook, I get so warm. So I think it's a really great time now when it's warmer outside and sometimes even nicer outside. Take your cooking outside of your house and go grill. Cook outside, leave all that heat outside so you're inside, your house stays nice and cool. And you can use that chili towel. You can have a drink with you when you're cooking. Right? Yeah, you can use things like that to stay cool outside. Have that mister system set up outside. All of these things are really, really great to help keep you cooler outside, but you're also going to save yourself a lot of heat in the kitchen. There's that phrase, right? If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Well, let's just kind of flip around the idea. If you can't stand the heat, go grill outside the kitchen.
And I'll tell you, grilling made eating vegetables so much easier to me. I just take some aluminum, put some veggies in there, put a little bit of oil or something in there and some spices, close that thing up, throw it in the grill. Boom. I got me something tasty and without any effort. And more importantly, to me, at least, I didn't dirty a bunch of dishes. I just got me some, I just got some aluminum foil to throw away. Woo-hoo!
Yeah.
Now I had heard, you had talked about the lemon, even just thinking about the lemon gets us to quench. And I had read somewhere about mint helping. What do you know about that?
Well, it can be really, really cooling. Mint has a very cooling effect. That's why they use menthol in things like the muscle relaxants. They use it for some of the throat drops, all of those kind of things. Mint is very cooling and refreshing. So if you add some mint, even just the herb, I know people think of all these like mint products, but growing a little mint pot, a little mint garden, mint grows like crazy. So you can plant some mint. Sometimes they have the little pre-planted seedlings or pre-planted mint in the produce section, and you can get your own little container of mint that's already growing. And that's a great way to add flavor. It helps cool down and give a little, almost like a tingling kind of sensation. Think of all the gum commercials and everything when they talk about mint and how it's so refreshing. So adding mint can be really, really helpful in creating that additional refresher without more liquid. And one of my biggest tips I would have when you're using mint is don't smash it, don't tear it up or anything too much, because you want to be careful. It's a really fine, it's a delicate herb. What you can do is pull off a handful and take a handful of the leaves and then just clap it right between your hands. And that clapping sensation, that clapping action will actually press some of the mint oil out of the leaf without bruising or damaging it. So it releases a lot more of the scent. And you can do this for a lot of different herbs. If you ever try it like with basil or some tarragon, something like that, you can really smell it quite easily after you clap it between your hands.
Awesome. I never know that. See, I'm learning more cooking tips too. I got to get better at cooking. I'm going to try this weekend. I'm going to try to make some stuff. It may not look very good. I'll take pictures and share them. So let's see. Let me taste good though. Yeah, let me go through some of these questions here. Someone said, James, have you had your labs done yet? No, I have not. The last labs I got were back in January. I've continued to stick to my diet for the most part. Continued using Renal. I have put on some weight. kind of a bunch of weight. My doctor, he can see my scale because I use a Withings scale, and it syncs to the cloud, and he sees all that. He's not happy with my numbers, and sometimes I skip like a few days, and he'll email me, say, James, got to hop back on that scale. I need to know what your numbers are. They've been going down the last few days, which is good, just not very fast. They go up a lot faster than they go down. But I have not had my labs since the beginning of the year, and my GFR was 33, which puts me at stage 3. But more importantly, I don't put a lot of value in the GFR number because it's just an estimate, and it kind of tells you, oh, you're in this stage. Here's what you should expect. I want to know details. I'm not a coulda, shoulda, woulda, mighta type person. I want to know what's going to happen to me. So I look at all my other labs. How am I doing with my hemoglobin? How am my red blood cell count? And things like that. Most importantly is I have no symptoms whatsoever. I have lots of energy. If it was cooler outside, I'd be thinner because I'd be out there doing more stuff. I always carry my winter coat on me, and I just can't handle this hot weather. I'm ready for Ohio winters to come back soon. All right, let me see what other questions there were. But yes, I do not have that. Someone asked, can too much water raise your GFR? I'll tell you what my doctors have told me. They told me if I was dehydrated when I get labs, my results could be off up to 20%. And it's important to be hydrated and not to go to the water fountain and try to chug down half a gallon of water right before my labs, because it takes 45 minutes for a sip to work its way into your system. Otherwise, it's just sitting there in your stomach doing nothing but making that number on the scale higher when you step on it. So stay hydrated all day, throughout the day, is what my doctors have told me. I could not imagine having too much water helping. My doctors give me a limit, and they tell me don't go crazy, don't go over. You go over a bit. I don't have any fluid restrictions anymore. But that's kind of my thoughts. Anything you know of different than that?
I would just say that your fluid balance, your hydration level can definitely impact your labs, just like you were saying, James. So whether you're really under or really over, you can see a big difference in your labs, but it's a snapshot. It's a snapshot of what's going on in your body at that point in time. So it could affect your labs, yes, for the better. Really, really hard to say, especially usually if your fluid balance is not balanced, then your labs aren't going to be looking too pretty. So drinking more water, I would say, for people who need to have a lot more water, oftentimes are people who have kidney stones without a fluid restriction. They need to prevent those stones and stay really, really hydrated. There's people that are at higher risk for dehydration and need to be at least mindful of a minimum that they should be drinking. And that includes, like, especially the elderly. As we get older, we tend to lose our thirst. So those signals in our body and I saw that for a lot of my elderly patients, that they just forgot to drink water all day. And it was not something that they thought about, and they were at a higher risk for dehydration. So their levels would climb higher because they were dehydrated. Think of putting the same amount of sugar into tea. If you only have a little bit of tea and you add a cup of sugar, it's going to be really sweet tea. But if you have a whole pitcher of tea and you add that same cup of sugar, it's not going to be as sweet. It's the same amount of sugar, but it's all about how much fluid is there for it to dissolve and dilute through.
Yep. And a lot of people, I see it on Facebook, they want to kind of cheat the labs. Like, hey, what can I do to just boost it temporarily? That's not what you should be trying to do. You're trying to make lifestyle changes so that you can improve or stabilize or slow down the decline, because you can't always improve. Sometimes you're just slowing things down. You want to know the truth of what's happening. You don't want to find some way to game your results and get something that really doesn't help you. I look at all those labs. I'm in there. I'm looking at every number. And in the beginning, the goal of my doctor was not, let's get your GFR better. That wasn't his goal. It was, let's stop the damage. We got to get your blood pressure under control. We got to get rid of all this excess fluid that you're retaining. And then we worked at my labs to get everything within the standard range. And if it just barely made it in the standard range, we're like, woo, we won. Yay, yay, yay. Then the next phase we got to is, okay, now let's get everything towards the middle of the standard range. Being on the edge isn't good enough anymore. And now I just look and I try to keep everything right there. And I want to know if I'm doing something incorrectly so that I can make an adjustment to it. And I track what I eat in an app, Chronometer, so I can go back and my doctors can look at it and say, okay, we think this is why, they can chart stuff and they know how all them working together with a renal dietitian, they kind of have a good idea of, you're doing this, or you're eating a lot more meat. You're going out and look at all these ribeyes you ate in the last 3 months. No wonder your BUN is up. And they can actually guess. We kind of play a game. They look at it, and I've gotten pretty good at it from listening to them. They'll say, yeah, your BUN, it's going to go up. You're eating too much animal protein right here. And your creatinine is probably going to go up a little bit. You're doing this and this. So don't try to game the system. You want to know what's really happening so you can make real changes and see if what you're doing is working. And if it's not, we make some changes and try something else the next set of labs. Let's see, I'm trying to look. We had a few questions about, and let's see if you have any idea about this or any insight. This is a food. Someone wants to know if it's kind of the thoughts on it. Sea moss, as in ocean moss. I've never heard of sea moss. I have no opinion on it. I know nothing about it.
I feel like somebody has asked this in the Facebook group before, or it was asked to me on Instagram. I can't recall directly where I got it from. I've not particularly heard of anything. I mean, is that something that you want to eat? Like that's always my first question. When people ask me about a certain food, a certain drink related to their health, is this what you want to eat? Don't ignore all of what you've heard, the theories, the ideas, the thoughts. Is that what you want to eat? Do you want to eat sea moss?
Very good. Yeah, because there is no magic food out there. There is no secret flower from the northern side of some mountain in Brazil or something like that that's going to suddenly cause magic to happen in your kidneys and undo what science has proven we can't repair. There is no magic fix. That's a great answer right there. Do you want to eat it? If you're looking to add some sea moss, I know nothing bad about it, but I know nothing about sea moss. It doesn't sound like anything. I don't eat sushi or any of that. I don't like seaweed. I don't like seafood. I don't like fish.
Oh, bummer. See, I can get behind seaweed. I can get behind the seafood in some cases. But sea moss, that one's a little left field for me. I've not heard of anything about it. So
yeah. Oh, Cheryl's saying it's a type of algae. Yeah, maybe it's loaded with vitamins. I don't know. So
I mean, algae does have some plant omega-3s. So maybe in that kind of context, but
that could be.
But I still think back, is it something that I want to eat? Me personally, no. I would find other ways to get my omegas in. There's tastier options out there for me.
Yeah.
But if you're like, oh my gosh, this sea moss is the best sea moss I've ever had in my life, and this is all I'm gonna want to have, then that's definitely an option.
Yeah. Oh, here's one I definitely want to answer that just came through, because this can be dangerous. Water pills. I have a video about this, about diuretics. So is your doctor prescribing the water pill would be the very first question I would ask as a patient before even taking a water pill. I know many of you might be thinking in your mind, and I thought this originally, but it's wrong, that, a water pill is going to turn my kidneys on, turn them up to 11 and flush water out. That is not what it does. It's going to overburden your kidneys. It's going to make them work harder. It's going to cause inflammation, which causes more protein leakage, which for me dropped my GFR, made everything worse. Diuretics are something with kidney patients we always need our doctor to tell us to take. Don't think, oh, that's going to solve the problem and that's going to fix it for us, because what they're doing is they're just putting your kidneys in overdrive. And our goal is not to overwork our kidneys. Our goal is to reduce the burden we place on our kidneys by eating healthier, eating more of what we need, less of what we don't, so that our kidneys, they can't repair themselves. They can't heal themselves. My kidneys today are just as damaged as when I was laying in the ER, having all sorts of problems with a single-digit GFR. A GFR of 8 was my lowest when I first went in there. I have the exact same kidneys today. There's no fixing them. What I have done is I've reduced the burden. I learned that drinking a 2 liter of Dr. Pepper was not going to help me. It would definitely send me to a dialysis center, and that's where I would be. I did not want to get on dialysis unless I needed to, and I made those changes to my diet to reduce the burden. So don't, I definitely want to mention, don't go to the store and grab a water pill. Don't go drinking teas that are diuretics thinking it's going to help you. A diuretic, even though it's over the counter does not mean safe. And I wish diuretics, as well as like ibuprofen and other medications that are bad for us kidney patients, I wish they had warnings and ways to kind of catch it. When we're buying that, there's no way to do it, but I wish everyone could know I have kidney problems and could say, oh, don't use that one. You're getting ready to buy that. That's going to hurt you, because I do not want to hurt my kidneys.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't say it enough, really. You should only be taking diuretics or water pills if it's prescribed by your doctor. Do not take them over the counter. Do not take them thinking that it will fix or speed up the process or do anything, because it is something that is very, very risky for your kidneys to try to self-medicate in a sense. And that is a very dangerous thing, especially if you already have compromised kidney function.
Yep. And for me, I did try a diuretic when I had all that fluid retention. And I have charts online of my GFR, and you'll see it doesn't just go up. It goes boom, boom, boom. You see some downs, and then I fix things with labs. And when I took a diuretic, my doctor told me, don't do it. I did it because I went online, I saw something, and I thought, this just makes sense. It's going to get the fluid out of me. It's going to work. No, 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 no. It worked the opposite, and it brought my GFR down. If my GFR would have gotten too low, I would have been forced to go on dialysis. And I don't mean forced like they would have came and grabbed me and made me get on. The doctors and I agreed. If I got to a GFR 10, if what I tried didn't work and I got back to a 10, I was going on dialysis. And anything that is a diuretic is most likely not good for your kidneys, so your doctor needs to recommend it. And there's a few people asking about, what about this? What about this? Does that help your kidneys? It's the same answer. Check with your doctor. There is no magic pill, no super cure, no drinking apple cider vinegar with water, none of those things, no baking soda and water. That one just irks me when I see people creating more and more videos on YouTube about it as a cure. It's not a cure. Always check with your doctor. That's the biggest takeaway. Here we got a question. Looks like it's from me, but it's not. It's from my dad. How about Crystal Light or Zero sports drinks? What's your thought on those?
I used to be a bigger fan about Crystal Light, but I have grown very, very skeptical because certain flavors, certain packages of Crystal Light have added phosphorus. And I can't even tell you which ones they are because it changes all the time. And some of them, like the tea ones, all of a sudden will be an issue, and then the lemonade ones will be an issue, and then the fruit punch flavored ones, it all the time it jumps around. So I'm super hesitant about Crystal Light because of the phosphate additives. The zero calorie, I'm thinking that's what he's talking about, sports drinks, those are still going to be basically an electrolyte cocktail. So it is going to have sodium, it's going to have some potassium, and oftentimes they do still have added phosphates. So when we talk about hydration, the number one thing to hydrate you is water, just pure, good old-fashioned plain water. If you need electrolyte repletion, which is because of excessive, and I'm talking about excessive sweating, not just like, oh, it's hot outside, I'm dripping. That's not necessarily excessive sweating. So be really, really, really cautious with the sports drinks and the things that have added electrolytes to them, because that can easily, like the coconut water, that can easily add up really, really fast in your body. So word of caution, just be really, really careful with those and read those labels. Make sure you know what you're putting into your body with those different types of drinks.
Yeah, and I just noticed we're a bit over time, so I just have two last things. One's a question. Several people asked it, and Rosalind asked it again about caffeine. Oops, I clicked the wrong one. Boom, there we go. Caffeine. Any thoughts on caffeine, especially related to heat and thirst? I know stay away from alcohol. First of all, it's not good for our kidneys, but it actually makes you more thirsty. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on caffeine?
So caffeine can trigger thirst. Caffeine is a type of a diuretic, in a sense, that it will trigger more of a urine release to a certain point. Once we get acclimated, once our body gets used to the caffeine, so if you have your go-to cup of coffee every morning, it is not really a diuretic per se. Your body is adjusted to that caffeine level, and that is still obviously part of your fluid allowance restriction, however you want to look at it. So caffeine in small amounts can be okay, but keep in mind that it can increase your blood pressure. So in several ways. So be careful when it comes to how much you're having. And obviously it's going to increase how much fluid you're putting in because of whatever kind that is. And, the sports, or not sports drinks, the energy drinks, I say definitely stay away from, because those are so high in caffeine and high in a lot of processed chemicals, and really won't do any good. So depends on where you're getting your caffeine from, but keep it to a low to moderate amount and check your blood pressure.
Yep. Awesome. And then we had a few people that said, hey, how can I work with Jen? Her website's right here below her, JenHernandezRD.com. I will also be adding it to the description of the video once we wrap all this up. Since I switched to a new way of doing the live video so that it goes to Facebook and YouTube, I have to go in after the fact to put the description in. But I will have the link to it. You can contact Jen there. If you're in the U.S., she'll let you know if she can work with you or what it would take to work with you. If you are on dialysis, there are dietitians in the U.S. If you're outside the U.S., it's probably different. But her website is a great place to start. Plus, there's a lot of great information in there. And don't forget her Facebook group, Plant-Powered Kidneys. I got it right, correct?
Yeah, you got it.
All right. I got to remake a thing on the screen because I used to just read it. It was easier. All right, everybody. We went over our time a little bit today. Thank you so much. Please share these videos so more people can learn about this. And if you want to find out what's coming up next, dadvicetv.com, the homepage, scroll down, and we have the schedule of upcoming topics. Plus, the very first week of August 1st through 7th, I will be going live every single day. Jen's one of those days. We're going to have someone from Pro Renal Plus D, the renal multivitamin I take, another day. We're going to have John Vito, the author of Cooking for Your Kidneys, here for at least one, maybe even two of those days. And I am working with some other people. We're going to have a week of kidney health. And my goal is to do it the first week of August as practice for next March which is the kidney awareness, dietitian awareness day, all that stuff. I plan to do it every single day next March, live. Woo! So August is going to be my first trial. I'm going to do it for a week. If I can do it for a week, I can do it for a month. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I wish all of you the best kidney health. If you're currently not working with a renal dietitian like Jen Hernandez here, get one. If your doctor doesn't have one, you can recommend that they can recommend that. I will have links below this video in the description of where you can search and try to find some in your area. We've got the United States, the UK, but that is the key to my recovery and my improvement was working with a renal dietitian, which meant I could eat anything. I was over restricting in the beginning. I learned I could eat what I want as long as I understood the portions, and that if I ate this, it meant I couldn't have that, or I had to do less of this. And now I just make choices, which is so much easier. My diet is not restrictive. It's what do I want? The great choices. All right. Thank you so much, Jen, for your time. Always awesome having you here, sharing your knowledge and your experience with us kidney warriors here, because we're all working to kick kidney disease to the curb. All right, everybody. Thank you very much, and we will see you in the next video. Oh, wait, let me turn on my end screen. I hit the wrong button.